Every girl has her dream dress. My sister and I happen to have the same dress, and the worst part is that it is 5 sizes smaller than us because we're too overweight to fit into it. Okay, I'll start this one off in order. This story is about my sister and my crazy weight loss race. My name is Lena, and my sister's name is Anne. We are twins. Everyone says we look alike, but we try not to adhere to the stereotype of twins and twins wearing the same clothes, listening to the same things, walking the same way, and having the same friends. We've loved being different since we were kids, and the more the better. We even changed our names. According to the documents, our names are similar, but we didn't like our names, so we changed them in future to Lena and Anne. So, our graduation was coming up. My parents had gone on a business trip to Milan and promised to bring us dresses from there. We pre-ordered them ourselves. I chose a black one and Anne chose a red one. We didn't like the other colors any better. When we saw the dresses, we got so excited. They were the perfect size for us too. We were not skinny sisters. I would even say we were puffy. We immediately sorted through our parents' suitcases, and at the end, a gold fish-shaped dress fell out. "Wow, what is this beauty?" I asked. Anne, at the sight of the dress, also froze. "Wait a minute, where did that come from? Mom, where did you get it? And why is it so small? Who's going to wear it?" asked Anne. And our mother told us that she'd met a designer there she knew, who had given her a dress in the latest size from a yet-to-be-released collection. "God, I want to go to prom in it," I declared, but at that moment, Anne yanked it out of my hands. "What are you going to do with it? You won't fit in it," she said rudely. I snatched it away again, said she wouldn't fit in it either. Then Anne snatched it away from me and said she would lose weight. So we kept pulling the dress from side to side and yelling that each of us would wear it, that it was made for me personally. Then my father came in. He took the dress away and said that if we decided to take the step of losing weight, he would take the dress away and hide it. "The one who loses weight first gets to get it. Set a deadline and I'll mark the date on the calendar." We shook hands with Dad and took 1 month to lose 20 pounds. Dad closed the dress in the safe and we went out. The race was on. Anne and I were the same weight. That night we gave up dinner and went to bed hungry. I could hear her and my stomach's rumbling, but I held on. In the morning, I drank only a glass of water, which my sister also did. Closer to the evening, I almost started hallucinating from hunger. My friend Tom was walking next to me, chattering and chewing gum, and I wasn't listening to him, just staring at his mouth. "Are you listening to me at all?" he asked, and all I asked was, "Good gum?" Tom stopped and said, "You can't lose weight like that. You might not live to graduate at this rate. You have to eat, just different foods and little bits at a time," he said, and he grabbed my hand and took me to his house. He said he was going to make me a salad of fresh vegetables. I sat down at the table with fresh hot bread and juicy ham. Tom was telling me something about his new boyfriend, but I barely listened to him. I was just looking at the bread and ham. "Done," said Tom, putting a plate of salad in front of me and then noticing that I wasn't there. He opened the bathroom door and found me sitting there on the floor, greedily munching on a huge sandwich. "How did you find me?" I asked with my mouth full, and Tom pointed to the breadcrumbs all over the floor. "Sorry, I didn't mean to. I don't know how this happened," I said and cried. He took the sandwich away from me and led me into the kitchen. I ate the salad, though, and then went home. In the morning, Tom brought me a diet breakfast, an egg, a cucumber, and some tomatoes. I ate them quickly, and so he fed me almost every day. It's cool when you have a friend who's a cook, who grew up in a family of cooks. 2 days later, I was walking by the market, where I could smell such a delicious smell of freshly cooked cutlets. God, I haven't eaten properly in so many days. Well, I'm doing well. Maybe 1 cutlet won't hurt, I said to myself, already buying that very greasy cutlet. A week later, we decided to look at the scales with my sister. Dad was changing it and fixing it. I got up first and found that I'd lost 500 grams. Whee! I was so excited. Anne wasn't hiding her displeasure. She got up on the scale and said she was minus 700 grams. I freaked out. "Girls, you need to speed up," my dad said. In the evening, I complained to Tom, and he scolded me for breaking my diet. He made me go for a run in the morning. We were exercising, and he had a lot of control over me. Still, on the days he was gone, I allowed myself to have a piece of cake, ice cream, and pizza, all at once. What can you do? I couldn't deprive myself of pleasure all the time. I was losing weight, then gaining back twice as much. Then Tom suggested a cunning move. "If you can't lose weight, let's get your sister fat," he told me. It was mean, but I couldn't let her win. "What do I do?" I asked Tom, and he said, "For starters, sort out her diet. Replace the cream and milk in the refrigerator with the highest fat percentage, and change the label. Replace her diet bread with regular bread, sugar substitutes with sugar, and natural juices with supplements," he told me. So I did. I replaced all the foods on her shelf and changed the settings a little on the scale for her and on her kitchen scale, where she counted calories. And I felt kind of relieved. I relaxed a little bit and started eating a little more and a little more junk food. The thought that my sister was gaining weight was warming. I thought that anyway, I wouldn't gain as much as she would. Suddenly, I saw her outside eating chocolate around the corner. I went up to her and asked her why she was doing that. She was hurting herself. Anne said that she'd be thinner than me anyway and that it was none of my business. I drank my pomegranate juice and went home. We were supposed to have a weight check in a week. We got on the scale in Daddy's office and, oh horror, plus 2 pounds. There was a screaming match, wild and endless. Then my mom came running in and said someone had replaced the food on the shelves in the girls' fridges. "It wasn't me. It wasn't me either," Anne and I said, and Mom was like, "Well, of course you're not going to change them yourself." "So my shelf got replaced too?" "What do you mean, too? Did you change the groceries on my shelf? And you were on mine? So that's why you were so quietly eating that chocolate. And you were eating pizza and cake. I saw you." Ugh! We were screaming at each other and clawing at each other's hair. Then I freaked out and grabbed the dress my dad had gotten, and we started pulling it from side to side again. My parents tried to pull us apart, but it didn't work. We got into an even bigger fight and wouldn't talk to each other. After a while, prom came. I decided not to go. First of all, I didn't want to see Anne, and second of all, I didn't fit into my black dress anymore. I just sat in my room and was sad. My mother walked in on me. She said that we'd both acted badly towards each other and that we shouldn't have acted in that way. "But I can't lose weight. I can't do it," I said in tears. And then my mom said that she and my dad could help me and sign us up with professionals if we wanted. "We?" I asked. Dad walked into the room with Anne. She, too, was as embarrassed as I was. We cried and apologized to each other. Then my folks pulled 2 gold dresses out of the closet. Exactly the same as the old one, just bigger sizes. Identical ones. "Wear the same dress for once," Mom said. "You're twins." We looked amazing. They tailor-made our looks in 2 days, and we were very happy, looked cool, and went to the ball together. So we decided we weren't going to win at each other's expense anymore. After the ball, we signed up for a weight loss program where we were monitored more closely by the trainers. There we lost 15 kilograms in a month, which we couldn't believe at first. And support was encouraging too. It turns out that we're not only able to harm each other, but help each other.
Hi everyone, my name is Milena. I had problems with being overweight, and because of this, I grew up with a lot of complexes. Only those who have the same problems will understand what I went through. And you know what? I managed to win, not only the weight, but also myself. And how? I'll tell you now. You will be surprised, but I was not born at all plump. On the contrary, I was a very small baby. My parents were not inclined to fatness. Everyone always envied them, my dad and my mom. Nature rewarded them with growth, gorgeous physique, and I myself envied them, to be honest. Friends prophesied to my parents of beautiful, slim, and strong offspring. They were not mistaken about the strength. At first, everyone said that this little girl would grow up to be the prettiest in the world. Well, yes, at first I was. When I was growing up, I was really cute and pretty, so it seemed to everyone except myself. Eventually, as time passed, I went to school. In the 8th grade, I began to grow dramatically in height. I was tall and thin. I had no butt or chest. A year later, the absence of 2 important parts of the body began to develop complexes in me. They called me the mop, which added fuel to the fire. I stopped communicating with the girls, withdrew into myself, cried every night, and wore the same clothes, a wide sweatshirt and jeans. Every time I came to school, I wanted to hide so that no one would notice me. I often pulled my hood over my head, and I got into the habit of hunching over. All I wanted was for the day to end quickly. I ran home, ate quickly, and locked myself in my room. I didn't want to talk to my parents. I found an excuse that I was terribly tired, and I lay in bed under the covers and cried sometimes until morning. I knew that this world was too harsh, and I might not be ready for this kind of challenge. And then, sitting on the internet, I stumbled on an interesting forum. It was all about flat girls, and it naturally caught my attention. I started poking around, reading every message, review, and photo. Then, as I understood, the girls discussed some foreign drug that helped them gain weight in a short time and build up the ass and chest. I thought, that's what I need. It seemed to me that fate itself gave me this link, to which I moved miraculously. I found my salvation, which was infinitely happy for me. Thus, having found the name, instructions, I decided to order it for myself. Secretly from my mother, having saved up money, I purchased this drug. It was in the form of pills, and it was like magic. You drink them and you get an appetite. Due to this, a person quickly gains weight. But I had no idea at the time that you also need to gain weight by following some rules. However, I reached my goal pretty quickly. Within a couple of months, I looked really different. But the horror that happened to me. I ate 8 to 9 times a day, and in between a heavy meal, I carried snacks. That is, chips, cookies, my favorite cakes, sweets, chocolate, and so on. After 2 months, I was able to completely update my wardrobe because, as I wanted, I had a chest, a butt, and a little belly. But it was not terrible for me because I was no longer flat. I grew my hair, changed my hair color to a lighter color, and changed my style of clothing. Now I boldly bought skirts, dresses, and tight jeans with t-shirts. Well, I was happy to see myself different. As soon as I worked a little, my life began to play with new colors. I had friends again, I became more relaxed, confident, sociable, and I knew that now I was sexy. Soon, I even had a boyfriend, and he was a real hunk. I met him at one of the parties with friends. His name was Dave, and he was tall, dark, and had a nice body. He was crazy about my figure, and we fell for each other in just a couple of dates. He was my first love, and I thought I was the happiest person in the world. So we started dating. My parents were just happy to see me happy, and at some point, I decided that I could stop taking these pills because I was in the body that I wanted and I didn't need them anymore. However, this was not the case. As it turned out, everything has its consequences. Despite the fact that I stopped drinking them, my appetite did not even think to decrease. I was hungry all day and couldn't bear to be hungry. I even had a headache if I didn't eat. The hunger attacks were so strong that I almost attacked people around me with aggression, and I realized that I was becoming like an animal. I felt uneasy, so I decided to eat, but reduce the amount a little. As it turned out, this was also not a good solution. My figure continued to grow. I grew in breadth more and more. Now, not only was I tall, but I was also gaining in breadth and turning into a rock. Do you know what the most annoying thing is that I couldn't stop in any way? And at a time when I was feeling bad, when I was literally howling with despair, my boyfriend, who swore in love, said that we can't be together anymore because my fat interferes with him. Do you understand that? He said my fat was preventing him from hugging me. These words put me in a hysterical state. I ran home, locked myself in the room again, and began to cry. I didn't want to go anywhere but the kitchen. I ate my sadness with food, and it was worse than when I was thin. In short, from extreme to extreme. I put my gym shirt back on and walked around with my head down. Well, then it dawned on me. If there are drugs for fullness, there should be for weight loss. I went back to that forum and found pills with the opposite effect. The effect was instant. I began to lose weight. And how? You may ask, but it's easy. These pills in me killed my appetite, and I ran to the toilet after every meal. So I began to lose weight rapidly. It took me just a couple of months to get back into the shape that Dave loved me in. As soon as I put on my favorite owl skirts, he began to run after me like a tail, telling me about his motivation. Allegedly, he is a good influence on me, and of course, I melted. I couldn't ignore him because I still loved him. But my happiness this time did not last long. Now that I was off those pills, I had another problem. I couldn't stop throwing up. It was like a nightmare. And then I started losing weight, getting flat again. And what do you think? My boyfriend threw me again. This time it was my bones that got in the way. And again, tantrums. I had a shock, and at the same time, I strangely began to hurt from the inside. When I got home after school, my mother met me with a pack of my fatness and thinness pills. We had a serious conversation, and my mother insisted that I be examined at the hospital. But I refused, because I was not ill. My struggles were until one day, I was unable to get out of bed due to terrible acute abdominal pain. I felt like someone was stabbing me all the time. I lay there and cried. That's when my mother didn't listen and took me to the hospital. Of course, the doctors were shocked when they heard what I had been doing with myself for a whole year. I was getting fat, then losing weight. Yes, it is violence against yourself. Don't you understand that this is fatal? The doctor told me. Wow, I didn't think it was that serious. It turns out that my body experienced terrible shock and stress because of my experiments on myself. I did everything wrong, but my biggest mistake was that I did it all just to please people, and especially a guy who doesn't even appreciate me as a person. That day, my mother cried a lot and told me one thing, that until I accept and respect myself, people around me will mold me into what they want to see, not paying attention to the fact that I am a person. And all this will be my own fault, because I allowed such an attitude to myself. In short, after this story, I never buy any pills on questionable sites without my mother's knowledge. And then I had to spend another year on my treatment and recovery. And as for my figure, I still scurried after beauty, only now, thanks to honest work, proper nutrition, and sports, I look good. 2 years later, Dave decided to hit on me again. Only this time, I paid him back by telling him that his lack of brains got in the way of me approaching him. He left, which I'm glad of. I did have another good friend, but that's another story. So, do not be lazy, friends, and work on yourself. On yourself. On yourself.